Good evening, everyone.
She is running late. Would it be possible to switch these items?
We'll have to.
We'll have to? Okay. And do the presentation and proclamation first.
I'll make her wait till the end.
Or make her wait until, that's up to you.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you all for joining us here at Alpharetta City Council meeting and public hearing of April 27, 2026. Before I get started, I did want to let some people know that there have been a couple of changes to the printed outline of tonight's meeting. So I wanted to give you an update in case you're here for something that may not be heard this evening. First item is the following has been deferred, will not be considered this evening, and that is CU-26-03/V-26-04, 7 Brew Coffee, 11378 State Bridge Road. So that will not be heard this evening, if that's why you were here. And the other is the withdrawal of Z-25-07/CU-25-15 V-25-20 Alpharetta District Places. If you were here for that portion, then you might have saved yourself a little bit of time this evening. I'll note for the record that all members of council are present and accounted for, except for Mayor Pro Tem Myrtle. And as always, we begin our meetings with a Pledge of Allegiance. So if you're willing and able, please stand and join us.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
And I've just been notified that the swearing in of Natural Resources Commission member that was printed on the agenda as our next item is running a little bit late, probably stuck in a little bit of traffic somewhere. That's fine. I just wanted to let people know why we're not following the agenda. We'll wait for her to join us before we take care of that portion of tonight's meeting. So, next item on our agenda is the presentation and proclamations. And if I could, I would love to introduce the presentation from Dr. Pamela Rochelle, Fulton County Chief Operating Officer, to present about the new Fulton County Health and Human Services North Facility.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Thank you so much for the opportunity this evening to provide an update on a brand new Health and Human Services facility located in Alpharetta at 4700 North Point Parkway. So this evening, I'm going to provide an overview of this facility and share what this facility will provide and what it is not, as well as how constituents here in Alpharetta can access these services. Next slide. So this facility is a $25 million investment by Fulton County. We purchased this property. It is a previous Comcast call center at 4700 North Point Parkway, and we purchased the facility in 2019 with hopes of immediately rehabbing the facility for this purpose. However, in 2020, with the pandemic, we pivoted the use of this facility for emergency management services and provided services through this facility for a few years. We then reestablished the original mission of the facility, which is providing health and human services in North Fulton in a variety of ways. The services under this roof include behavioral health services for children and adults, a developmental disabilities training center, senior services to include a multi-purpose facility and adult day health program, as well as a full suite of public health services and customer service and a recovery treatment court. Next slide, please. Many of the questions that we've received about facility really lean to making sure the public knows exactly what is provided there and how. So services are provided during typical business hours, 8:30 until 5, Monday through Friday, with some evening hours for services. What it is not a homeless shelter, it is not a crisis center, it is not a diversion or drop-off center for our law enforcement agencies. It is a facility that is providing health and human services by trained, dedicated professionals every day of the business week. So moving on to what exactly is provided for each of these services. Next slide. Developmental disabilities. We have a training center for adults who are living with the developmental disabilities. It includes trained staff who provides a variety of services to ensure that our residents who have developmental disabilities continue to be socialized in the community and are provided with opportunities for a variety of training and social skills. Meals are provided to our participants every day, lunch service, as well as transportation. We provide that as well to this facility. This facility will also include, next slide. Before I go to that slide, here you see the number to call if you have constituents, residents here in Alpharetta who would like to enroll in this program. You can call the main number at 612-65200, or specifically if you have questions, one of our dedicated staff can answer those questions at 404-612-8400. Next slide, please. Senior services. We are extremely excited about senior services because we have never had senior services this far north in Fulton County. It will include a multi-purpose program, which is everything from arts to physical education, all sorts of dance classes, anything that you can imagine to keep seniors active and engaged. For families experiencing a loved one that may have early onset dementia or other physical limitations due to failing health, we will also have an adult day health program. Both programs require registration and a very high level assessment, but all of the services that I am describing are at no cost to the community. And so we are extremely excited about engaging you and your constituents and all of the residents here in North Fulton with these services. Next slide, please. Then we have Board of Health, all of the traditional Board of Health services, nursing, services for children and women's services. We are very excited to announce that this facility at 4700 North Point Parkway will also host vital records. So your constituents previously had to go all the way downtown to 141 Pryor Street for any of their vital record needs. We now have at 4700 North Point Parkway in Alpharetta, Chris, as you reminded me that the address is actually in Alpharetta, we have vital records. And so you no longer have to go all the way downtown to obtain any of the vital records. It's fully staffed, it's opened 5 days a week. You don't need an appointment. You just simply walk in and you can access any of the vital records that you previously went downtown to receive. This clinic or services also include a dental clinic for children and a travel clinic. So also a very popular service. So any constituent traveling out of the country that might need vaccinations, we have a fully staffed travel clinic as well at this location. Next, we have a recovery treatment court for any constituent who may have had the unfortunate incident of a DUI or other substance use issue while driving. This is an alternative sentencing program. And so right at this 4700 North Point Parkway facility, constituents who would like to have the opportunity to participate in this alternative sentencing program can receive those services at this facility. It includes group therapy, other testing and programming. Again, this is an alternative sentencing program. This is also an early voting location. And so, of course, today kicks off early voting, and we are pleased to provide early voting at this location. There were several early voting locations that were discontinued, and so now to have the opportunity for this additional site, we are pleased to provide that. All of these services are provided and through, again, Fulton County staff, and when you enter the facility, you are greeted by a trained customer service professional who can answer questions and help you navigate through the entire facility. And so, Mayor, again, thank you for the opportunity. Thank you for joining us last week at our ribbon cutting. It was such a pleasure to have you, and we are, again, so delighted to be in Alpharetta.
Thank you, Dr. Rochelle. I really appreciate, one, just your effort in making this possible. I know it's not just you. You've got tremendous staff and support from your electeds and everybody else, but this is a huge step for the city of Alpharetta, and not just the city of Alpharetta. It's located here in our city, but it serves all of the municipalities in North Fulton. And
Yes.
I know all of our mayors are appreciative for having these services available for their residents now. And we're grateful for it. Is there any other comments, perhaps questions from council? Councilwoman Reeves?
It was lovely to be there for the ribbon cutting. I've been in Fulton County a long time, and this is such a welcome addition to us in North Fulton. And I want to thank your staff. I want to thank all of the people in Fulton County who made this possible. And I think it's going to provide constituent services in a much more convenient way.
Thank you, Councilwoman Reeves, and thank you to your team. Of course, a project like this requires permitting and other services from the city, and everyone was so gracious and helpful, and so it certainly was a team effort.
Thank you. So the next proclamation will be for Public Service Week 2026. I believe we have a Director, Human Resources. Ladies and gentlemen, this is Chris Randall, our Human Resources Director. I'll let her take the floor on this item.
All right, thank you, Mayor. So we're here to celebrate the Public Service Week, which is celebrated on the first full week of May. And it's a time to recognize public servants at the federal, state, and local level. All of those folks that makes all of our dreams come true in the community. So every single employee and every single position makes a meaningful impact on the lives of the community and the people who we serve. So we are very proud to have wonderful staff that we have at the city. No, I say it every year, and I'm going to continue to say Alpharetta is great because the great works here. So, and it's time for us to continue to celebrate that.
Thank you, Chris. And that is so true. Most people, they give credit or blame to the mayor or council members or perhaps the police chief or fire chief or something like that. But there's 550 employees plus that make the city that we enjoy today. So it's nice that we can recognize them today. And I'll read this proclamation by the mayor and the city council of the city of Alpharetta, Georgia. Public Service Recognition Week, May 3rd through 9th, 2026. Whereas each day, Alpharetta citizens and communities across America benefit from the dedication and service of public employees at the local, state, and federal levels. And whereas these public employees do not simply accept jobs, they take oaths and dedicate themselves to provide the diverse services demanded by citizens efficiently and with integrity, and often placing the needs of others above their own. And whereas public servants include all who serve our nation as federal, state, county, tribal, and local government employees in countless and equally important occupations, embodying the spirit of service that strengthens our country. And whereas without these committed public servants at every level, continuity of government and delivery of essential services would not be possible, especially in a democracy that experiences regular change in its leaders and elected officials. And now, therefore, we, the mayor and the city council of the city of Alpharetta, do hereby proclaim May 3rd through 9th, 2026, to be the Public Service Recognition Week in the city of Alpharetta, and urge all citizens of the city of Alpharetta to recognize the accomplishments and contributions of government employees, especially those of our city, and acknowledge the impact they make on our citizens' quality of life and the success of our community. So proclaimed this 27th day of April 2026 by the mayor and city council of the city of Alpharetta, Georgia. Thank you. Thank you all. So next item up on our agenda is the consent agenda. Consent agenda this evening consists of the city council meeting minutes from the meeting of April 13th, 2026, the financial management report for the month ending February 28th, 2026, the final order and judgment for Windward Parkway Pedestrian Bridge and Windward Parkway Drainage Modification Project, Parcel 4, easement agreement with Sawney Electric Membership Corporation, McGinnis Ferry Road. Is there anyone here who would like to remove anything from the consent agenda? Seeing none. Do we have any public comment cards?
No, sir, we do not.
However, if anybody objects to the consent agenda, now's your chance to come forward. Seeing none, we'll close public comment. So, do I have a motion from council?
Motion to approve. Second.
Have a motion by Councilman Hypes, second by Councilman Virgil Brady. Any discussion? All those in favor, please vote yes. Excuse me, I turned off my mic. Now we'll move on to the public hearing portion of tonight's meeting. First item will be the announcement of the public hearing procedures. Ms. S. Swine, would you like to do the honors?
Thank you. An individual requesting to be heard on a matter related to the purpose of the hearing must be recognized by the mayor before addressing the city council. Upon rising to speak, the speaker must identify himself or herself and furnish a home or business address before proceeding with any comments or remarks. The council will allow the proponents a total of 10 minutes to speak in support of an application. Opponents will be allowed 10 minutes to speak in opposition. Comments are accepted first from the applicant, followed by persons speaking in favor, and then from those in opposition. Upon conclusion of any opposing comments or presentations, the mayor will allow the applicant to offer rebuttal if any time is remaining in the originally allotted 10 minutes.
Thank you, Ms. Swine. So the first item up on public hearing agenda will be V-26-07, Alpharetta District Places Phase 1. Director Cook, I believe you have this item.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. The item, let me do a focus.
Okay,
I think
thank
that
you.
might help.
A little fuzzy.
Is that good?
Bravo.
Yes. The submitted request, if approved, would allow for a specimen tree to be removed in the building setback along Marietta Street. And the applicant is proposing to construct Phase 1 of the Alpharetta District Places development, which includes 17,700 square feet of retail and 17,700 square feet of restaurant on 5.34 acres in the downtown. Property is located at 82 Marietta Street and 131 South Main, near the southeast corner of Roswell Street and Marietta Street. So it's here. You can see the hatch. It's kind of hard to see. And then, of course, the corner property where it says CBD is the city's park space at the corner of Marietta and Roswell Street. Right now, it's developed with a 20,000 square foot retail center, 4,200 square foot dry cleaners, and 2,400 square foot contractor's office. And surrounding properties are also zoned C2. Of course, the former off-leash across the street, the Taco Bell. And then on the Roswell side, you also have Pure and next to Pure, and then the Zaxby's and the Walgreens surrounding. So also properties within the downtown. Let me put the site plan here. So this is the tree that they're requesting the removal of, and just a little bit of background regarding that tree. It's a specimen tree. It's actually located off-site. However, the required improvements that we have within the downtown do require that the applicant install an 8-foot sidewalk along the front. And if you're thinking about what it looks like on Marietta Street, there's a small sidewalk on the opposite side, on the north side of the street. It's about 4 feet, and there's no sidewalk on this side of the street. So it's been probably 2 or 3 years ago, we put within the code that if a specimen tree was removed within the front setback, that it does require council approval. We didn't put in there except where required street improvements and sidewalks are required. So the impact from the required streetscape of the 6-foot beauty strip as well as the 8-foot sidewalks causes additional impacts to this tree. There's also a substandard lane width, so there will be some required right-of-way public easements that would be given to us from the applicant as part of the land disturbance permit. So they're in the land disturbance permit process, and they are required to go through this variance process prior to issuance of that permit. And I'll show you a blow-up of the tree, the existing impacts. Of course, nothing is happening to the existing retail center. That's all in gray, so there's no improvements. The improvements along Marietta Street would be between the city's park and the existing retail center and parking. So right now, the impacts to the 54-inch water oak, right now within the critical root zone, there's a impact of 58%. That's shown here in gray. So this is the critical root zone. In gray, you can see the road. The property that's located to the east, of course, they have parking within that critical root zone, and then there's a driveway access. Also, within the structural root plate, you can see that here, that's hatched out, and there's a 50% impact already. Our arborist found, as well as the applicant's arborist, that there's moderate risk to this tree. And if the tree was to remain even without construction and putting in the 8-foot sidewalk, the cabling would be required to hold the limbs to keep them from moving so that they don't fall. There's also a whole prescription plan that would be required to save that tree. But both reports and the arborist agrees that if there is additional construction, the required widening in the future of the 10-foot of the Marietta Street travel lanes, as well as the 8-foot sidewalk, that would likely kill the tree. And looking at the applicant's request, they did request that in lieu of paying the required recompense for the removal of the tree, that they improve the site with larger trees, and I'll show you a blow-up of what that looks like. So I'll show you the two locations on this site plan. I'm going to show you the blow-up on Marietta Street first. So this is what that would look like on Marietta Street, and this, you can see where they're creating the entrance into the property. The entrance cannot be pushed any further to the west because of alignment to create parking internally, and it cannot be forced any farther to the east because of the existing parking that's located with the shopping center. So with the request to remove this tree, they are proposing that instead of the required 4-inch minimum caliber trees, that they would install 6-inch caliber, and these are Princeton elms, so they get a very large canopy. And although they're not improving Marietta Street, this section that's located, that they plan to disturb, they will be required, as part of that land disturbance permit, to set that back so that there are future improvements to Marietta Street. They will be required to install the 8-foot sidewalk, just not improve the lane, because of course you don't improve just a small section. And then the other blow up of the area that they're proposing in lieu of the recompense is removal of a section of the Alpha Loop, and here's a better picture of that. So when the Alpha Loop was installed, it's here in this yellow piece. There was a little bit of a jog between the curb and the Alpha Loop, but you can't plant anything in it. It's very small. It's about maybe a little over a foot. So they would move that and put it in line so that there's a straight line for the Alpha Loop. This also pushes it farther towards Roswell Street and provides an area, larger area for the trees that they plan to install. They also propose, this is Roswell Street, of course, Pure is across the street, Empire Homes closer across the street. They are planning to save, I think it's 2 water oaks that are located at the corner of the property, and then they would be installing, instead of 4-inch caliber Princeton elms, they would be 6-inch caliber as part of the recompense of the Marietta Street. And I do, although, we're not looking at the zoning of the property, I just want to show you what that looks like along Marietta Street. Roswell Street, thank you. So looking at the variance criteria, of course, there's several criteria that we look at within Article 4, Section 4.5.3. And looking at number 1, there are extraordinary and exceptional conditions pertaining to the particular piece of property in question because of its size, shape, or topography. And the property does have exceptional conditions pertaining to its shape and topography, but the combination of existing impacts to the tree and the required streetscape in close proximity to tree 41 is the reason that we believe that there's a hardship with this request. Put the full site plan. We also looked at number 2, the application of the ordinance to this particular piece of property would create an unnecessary hardship. Again, existing impacts to the structural root plate as well as the critical root zone exceed 50%. And the applicant's arborist as well as the city arborist have said that additional impacts would kill the tree or cause it to fail. So after reviewing the variance criteria and the applicant's request, we are recommending approval. And the property has peculiar conditions related to the existing impacts. 241 is located approximately 15 feet from the right-of-way line along Marietta Street. Of course, that line's going to move. And installation of the required streetscape improvements will further impact the tree. Recommending approval and subject to 5 conditions. And the conditions would require the additional larger trees to be planted along Marietta Street and Roswell Street. It also it states that a number 2, developer shall improve Marietta streetscape with a minimum 6-foot planter, planted with street trees, minimum 8-foot sidewalk, curb and gutter, or as approved by staff, decorative pedestrian lighting and street furnishings with final approval by staff. Overhead utilities along the project side of Marietta Street may require relocation or placement underground in order to resolve conflicts with code-required landscaping. And streetscape improvements may require additional right-of-way or easements. Streetscape improvements shall be installed using specific construction techniques, such as floating sidewalk to limit impacts to save trees, as approved by staff. And then 3 deals with the moving of the alpha loop. 4, the requirement for the overstory shade trees. And then 5, applicant shall install signage, and it shall be stated in the leases for the development that delivery trucks in excess of a 6-wheel box truck shall not use Marietta Street for ingress, egress. And that's staff recommendation. If you have any questions, I'll be glad to try to answer those.
Councilman DeRito?
Thank you, Mayor, and thank you, Ms. Cook, for the presentation. In reviewing this for this evening's meeting, I was traveling from New York City, so I didn't have a chance to give you a call today. I was on the airplane, but I like what they're trying to do here. I understand it, so it's my questions are not opposing what's trying to be done here, but I want to try to understand the particulars of this variance request, because the tree literally resides on, I guess what I'll call phase 2, and it's not in phase 1 of the project that we're speaking to. And as everyone knows, phase 2 went through a lot of public discussion, particularly with that tree. And I'm trying to understand, like, what's changed to remove that tree in what I'll call phase 2, even though it wasn't presented as phase 2, I think, from my recollection. That's the district places that was withdrawn on the agenda that
Yeah,
I
so
alluded to tonight.
this was
So
the
why are we
phase 2.
talking about a tree on the other withdrawn Alpharetta district places
Yeah, so
on this particular property versus talking about, I'm trying to understand what impact. It's confusing
Yeah.
because it's not
That
part
makes
of
sense.
phase 1.
Right. So when they were going to go forward with phase 2, this was an included request. And they had actually come forward with phase 1 during the land disturbance permit and said, we need to remove this tree. And it was staff recommendation that since they were coming forward with a request to council for this phase 2, that they should just include that as part of that request. Because it's for the same reason. When you have to widen Marietta Street in the future from 8.5-foot lane width to 10-foot, it's too much of an impact to this tree. When you put in sidewalks, even for this first phase, which comes from this location here, this is kind of the box, you can see there's a critical root zone impact just for their construction. So all of this will be impacted. And that's very similar with our tree ordinance. When we give a land disturbance permit to, it could be a neighbor putting in a pool. we look to see what kind of an impact it may have on the neighbor's critical root zone, because if it's more than a 20% impact, then we have a certain protocol that you have to follow. So even though the tree is off-site from this phase, this construction will impact it significantly, even more than the 58% impact that it has.
Is the tree in question, is that property owned by a different group versus Phase 1?
They've listed, that they've submitted the entire site. That's part of this public hearing.
For this application, for this variance request?
Yeah, so the entire parcel is included, but the only request, there's no zoning request, it's a request for removal of the tree.
I guess I'll ask legal counsel whether we should be considering a tree removal on a different, I guess, plot of land that is not part of the approved project on Phase 1.
And it's still submitted as part of the application. Here.
Are you asking for clarity from?
Yes.
Ms. Eswine, could you?
I'm not as familiar with the requirements on the setback issue that Ms. Cook was explaining, so I'm not in a position to just explain that right now. I could look into it further if y'all decide to postpone this. But if a
I
variance
could,
is
though,
needed,
I
and
think his question is more along the lines is it legally appropriate under this circumstance?
I think if, and maybe I'm misunderstanding the question, if, as Ms. Cook said, they're asking for the tree to be removed when it would otherwise be required to stay, and they've filled out the application with the property owner authorization, followed all of our standard procedures, I think it would be appropriately before you, if that's your question.
If there was two different owners and two different parcels of land? Is it the right applicant, I guess, is what I'm asking the question, number one.
That I would have to look into the
And then
property
number
records
two,
further.
My concern is, again, I like what's being requested, but I want to make sure we do this right. I'm not opposed to what the applicant's asking to do here, but what I don't want to do is remove a tree that came under tremendous scrutiny and discussion when Alpharetta District Places went for our planning commission and a couple of times, and a lot of discussion with city staff, and that tree was one of the focal points of the, what I'll call debate or legitimate discussion as to whether that could be removed or not, because of what the applicant on that part of the property there was attempting to do.
Yeah, we have the required signatures on the entire site.
Okay, I'm not gonna, but staff was very adamant about maintaining that tree, from what I remember. So my question is, we're going to remove a tree that, under the previous application on District Places, it just seems strange that we're going to now remove it easily when it came under such scrutiny and debate. And what I hope is not happening is that we're going to remove this tree and all of a sudden we're going to get a new application for what I'll call Phase 2, to go back to the multi-apartment units that had a lot of scrutiny and discussion by many people in the city. And that's what my concern is. I mean, because I just remember that being a bone of contention. And it was very adamant by community development staff that that tree be protected and maintained.
Well, with this application, we actually looked at and have a survey of the travel lanes with Marietta Street. And we have found that when it's in this area, most of it's along the city's property, that you have the substandard lane west, the 8.5. So we know immediately that even though they're putting in the 8-foot sidewalks and the 6-foot beauty strips, it's going to push it even further back into the site. And we also have our own assessment that we actually had an assessment done of this tree to verify the impacts. So there is, we believe that with the required streetscape standards that are applied within our code, that the impacts to the tree would, cause the tree to heavy decline and should be removed. And instead, the larger elm trees planted along Marietta Street as well as Roswell Street. And if anything's submitted for this application, I mean, they would have to go through a public hearing. And because they withdrew that application, that's why they had to move forward with a separate request for the tree. It was included within their request when they had a public hearing that was submitted. But since they're not going forward, it's just a standalone request.
But is it the same applicant on both parcels?
It is the same applicant.
You have any other questions?
No, Mayor, thank you.
Councilman Brady?
Yes, I guess, I know this was approved before us on council, so I got actually a chance to ask some questions about phase one. Appreciate this and just hope you give me a little latitude on it. I'm not necessarily talking about the tree, I'm just really gonna be talking about the road and really kind of the safety of this particular intersection, because it narrows significantly. I think everybody wants a sidewalk there. I mean, I've talked to all the neighbors up and down. I live on Marietta Street. I mean, I understand this corridor. Most of the neighbors, everyone's just so excited about, kind of improvements here, especially on this part of Marietta Street and walking through. But I'm worried about the sequential events that are happening, because I think you just said that we're not going to touch the lane. So I just want to make sure, when is the lane going to be a curb? They're going to put in a sidewalk, then later the city has to take expense to move that sidewalk and move it back out. I want to make sure things are done, one
Yeah.
expense, done right the first time, that we're not adding additional work. Just like you were talking about the Alpha Loop, had a little nudge out. It's like, well, why did that happen? That just got poured, right? That was just fresh concrete. I'm going to go into a couple things. So just if you walk me through the sequential, what is the improvements that's going to be done to that street, and what's the impact on this property at this intersection?
Sure. Great questions. This is the city's property that's here in the darker gray. And the lane is actually the smallest width along the city's property. So I know that there is actually a request, I think it's in this year's budget, to design the park here. So I would imagine as part of that we would also widen our lane to match this, and then we would also install the 8-foot sidewalk that would connect here. When we give the land disturbance permit that requires them to install the 8-foot sidewalk and the 6-foot beauty strip, that's going to be moved away farther from the Marietta Street in order to be able to have the land in the future to widen that lane. So it won't be moved. We're going to account for that right now as part of the land disturbance permit, that they push that back, the 6-foot beauty strip and the 8-foot sidewalk, to accommodate that future widening. And that's here. Now, of course, we don't know if there's any plans, and maybe the applicant can talk about that, what kind of plans, if they have any, for phase 2. But if they did have any plans, then at that time, we would require them to build that 8-foot sidewalk, as well as the widening. If they built it now, of course, that would go into the parking that they have on site.
So a little bit of that, the reason why I'm asking this sequential is I don't want to look like a jigsaw puzzle where we have one piece, which is our piece of property, the park, and nothing happens right there. Then all of a sudden, the developer goes and improves just a little, I don't know how many feet of Marietta Street, then down long into the corner, I'm really thinking through streetscape, right? That continuity on a streetscape, that trees are all kind of lined the same way, not like 3 and then a big gap of 100 feet and then a little bit more. I mean, I hope we're working, with the park piece in same kind of continuity as the developer's piece, so it looks the same as you're walking down the street.
Yeah, and this
Park-
is, oh,
and then-
sorry.
And then also lighting as you're kind of walking through, like is there any additional lighting or bollards? But more, is it all happening at the same time?
It will not happen at the same time, just like Thompson Street. Of course, we had, 8 different developments through Thompson Street. So each one of them, although it looks seamless now, each one of them had to come in there and, build theirs. And we have like a master plan for it to make sure that when one developer builds to the next developer, that it all ties together. And that's what we had to do
But
at
that,
Thompson
but
Street.
that sounds like we're making a conscious choice as a city not to do our park at the same time the developer's doing it. Why wouldn't we all do this in unison and do it together?
That would be something that the council could decide, of course, with the budget. I do know that the Parks Department has submitted that for consideration, the design of the park. But you're right. I mean, there are so many people that use that street, and the sidewalks are
I mean,
very
developers,
much in
of course, like,
demand.
we work with developers that put sidewalks in all the time, right around, right up along there. So is there going to be a gap between the stop sign on the park on Marietta Street and then it starts a sidewalk?
Well,
I'm trying to understand that piece.
Yeah,
So we're going
sure.
to look at Mary Street with just literally a 100-foot piece of sidewalk, nothing, sidewalk, nothing. It's going to look weird.
well, and of course, I think the construction of the park, but I don't know the timeline. Are you saying, sometimes in the past, we have conditioned a developer to build off-site sidewalks in exchange for impact fee credits? I mean,
So right where your pen is, right there at the,
Here.
what they call the, yeah, right there. What happens, can't we have a sidewalk done right there? So at least, you have the Alpha Loop that comes all the way down Rossville Street, then right there at the corner, you turn to a sidewalk and go all the way down to where it would end at Phase 2. So that
Yes.
kind of creates continuity, right?
Yeah.
Remember, streetscape, you have sidewalks, streetscape, then you have plantings, you have all those things, and it's all done at the same time, and it all can be kind of conforming.
and we could certainly work with the Parks Department to make sure that it complies with it. I know they have a concept plan for the park, but you could give impact fee credits for off-site to complete this section, which would be great to be able to have that continuity and be able to tie into the Alpha Loop that's already there.
Okay, you're speaking my language now. I
There we
like
go.
what you're saying. There we go. Thank you.
Took me a minute.
Councilwoman Reese?
First of all, I had a similar question about the street and when it was going to get done. I just want to make sure we don't have nice sidewalks and beauty strip done that only then gets ripped up for the right-of-way.
Right.
So it's going to be in the right place from the get-go.
100%.
Okay, and will the elm trees that are installed there, the 3 elm trees, will they be far back enough that when the street is improved to be the right lane width all the way through, they're far back enough that they won't be disturbed?
Yes.
Okay.
We will make sure of that it's set back, because you definitely wouldn't want to install and then have to move them.
I'm a little bit okay with the puzzle pieces, because I think everybody who is a developer who benefits from over here, I think it's nice to have their help in doing some of this, and we certainly wouldn't have a greenway if we weren't able to wait for everything to come along. So I'm just glad that you're considering Marietta, you're setting us up for Marietta Street to function both as a road, as it should, and as, sidewalks for the folks that live over there.
Yeah.
So, thank you for thinking of that. I was worried about those little elm trees that were.
Yes, and if we get the right canopy and
Get the right
the
canopy, get the
utilities
right-
underground,
Yeah.
be a beautiful
And
pedestrian
just
street.
one other quick question, it's not for here, it's for design review, whatever. Lighting is really expensive, super expensive. And do we have the developers install the lighting on their property?
Yes,
Like on the sidewalk
yes.
in their development, so
They-
that we don't pay the $30 a month?
Well, we pay once it's submitted and it's in the public right-of-way, then we do pay the actual power bill.
Lease bill.
They
the
pay
lease-
for this, they pay for the
But they
light
buy-
poles,
but
and
they-
they
they
pay
can
to
pay for the
install
poles.
them. Yeah,
Okay,
they
so
pay for the poles,
then they don't have to be leased from George Power.
right.
I like that.
But And we are working with Public Works because we did find, we just had a developer that installed 4 on Cricket Lane, $35,000 for 4, and there was some issues that since it wasn't leased of who would do the repair, but we're working on that to make sure that we get the best, what's best for the city long-term to make sure that these lights are functioning as they should.
Okay, thank you, Kathy.
Councilman Heights?
Thank you, Mayor. Now, the recompense for the tree, if the motion were to pass, what constitutes the recompense?
I'm sorry,
What constitutes the recompense?
Sure. So the recompense that was required would have amounted to, I think it's $43,800. So we tried to look at improvements that would equal the $43,800, and we never really want money into the tree bank if we can make it better on the actual site. So the enlarging the trees from the 4-inch to the 6-inch, we didn't count that, but we did count moving the alpha loop section so it's aligned, gives it better space for the elms, and here's what that looks like. We had checked with Public Works, and they said that they were paying about $700 a foot for the alpha loop, and so that would amount to $49,000 just for that, which equals the recompense. But we also wanted to see larger trees installed from the beginning and get the elms. So the elm trees along Roswell Street here shown in green, and then the 3 on Marietta Street, as well as fixing the alignment of the alpha loop.
So, and that is, in total, that is the recompense. The city's getting more in return what the recompense dollar amount would be.
We believe so.
Okay. Now, a while back, there was a change of designation to Roswell Street with some mid-story or lower buildings. I forget the name of it. Community development, I gave it a name.
The Heritage area?
Okay.
Is that right?
And
Heritage District, yes.
And if I recall, and I'm asking you actually, wasn't there something about developing the tree canopy on Roswell Street to try to have, the trees overgrow as you drive up Roswell Street through the Heritage District?
Yes.
So, one area where we want to accomplish that would be the trees along Roswell Street where these bigger trees are going to be planted.
Yes.
And then I had a question about this condition, which is condition number 2, which is the developer shall improve with the beauty strip, as you call it, and the sidewalks. That's not part of the recompense. That's part of what the city is requiring of the developer to do this project. Is that correct?
That's correct.
So we've got a code currently that says the city may require a developer to do construction and development inward from a street, and in doing so, it may encroach upon root zones of existing trees and compromise those trees. But our code, even when that happens, and we're the ones requiring it,
Right.
in that, as it stands right now in our code, it has to have the blessing of council.
That's correct.
I think that's something we need to look at. If the city is going to be the author of the demise of a tree, I think, I don't know if we need to.
Yeah,
I think we need to look at the code.
I think we do need to look at some changes to the tree ordinance, especially for the downtown. It's hard to meet the tree density on some of these smaller lots. So we need to look at making some changes to where they have shared areas, still meet the tree density for smaller lots. But that's another item that we will look at, because if it is a requirement from the city that impacts the trees, that's something that we may want to address in the code.
So the 2 tree reports that are in, one by the city and one by the applicant, addresses the impact on the tree. And there is one report, I think, that looks at the tree with no construction, and there's another that looks at it, addresses when there is construction. But really, there's going to be construction because we're requiring it as a city, correct?
That's correct. So the
So-
construction is not just the entrance.
Right.
It's the road improvement.
So the outcomes that anybody can read in the report about what will happen to those trees as the result of construction, that's the result of construction that the city's requiring.
Part of it is.
Part of it.
Yes.
And when we build these 8-foot sidewalks, you know, that ultimately connect, you know, the city's aware that that's a fairly heavily traveled pedestrian corridor between the west side and getting to the Publix. I would,
Yes.
and now there's 2 written reports that say this tree is compromised, limbs may fall out of the tree and potentially, you know, injure people. And the 8-foot sidewalk's going to be underneath the tree. It's not going to be on the other side of the street, is it?
That's true. But it did recommend pruning and cabling as part of that.
And I'll ask the applicant, because, you know, I want to make sure we're all clear. I want my fellow council members, you know, so that we all understand. But it's my understanding, except for the park, this entire quadrant's owned by one owner, Burr Rock.
That's correct.
Yeah, so this tree, and the applicant has approved, the owner has approved the applicant moving forward, is that correct?
Correct.
But the entire quadrant, other than the park, is owned by one owner, correct?
Correct.
I appreciate
To
it.
my
Thank you.
knowledge, to the best of my knowledge. Apologies then.
Do we have any other questions for staff on this item? Thank you, Director Cook. Would the applicant like to come forward?
My name is Eric Rowan. My business resides at 7 Old Roswell Street in downtown Alpharetta. And this is our civil landscape engineer.
Hi, I'm Jennifer Sprayberry with AEC. We're at 50 Warm Spring Circle in Roswell.
I'm here actually to thank you, Mayor and Council, for considering this application. I think a lot of the questions that have already been asked have been answered, but if there are any additional questions, I'd be happy to answer them relating to the tree, to the development, to the improvements we're making or recompense.
Do we have any questions for the applicant? Shortest presentation ever. I assume you'll save your time in case there happens to be someone that would like to come and talk about it from the public.
Yeah, I don't think we have anything to add other than what's already been presented by Ms. Cook.
Yeah. Ms. Husky, do we have any public comment cards in favor of this item?
We do not.
Do we have any public comment cards in opposition to this item?
Yes, we do.
Could you please announce who that?
Mr. Mike Buchanan, if you will state your name and address for the record, please.
Hello, everybody. Michael Buchanan, 135 Pebble Trail, right here in Alpharetta. While I have other roles in the city, I'm speaking now as Citizen Mike. And I think I represent other citizens, and also wanted to speak on behalf of the trees, or this tree in particular. And while I understand progress, I also recognize that there are a limited number of specimen trees in this city. We can always get more buildings. We can always get more gas stations. You want to get more whatever that defines progress. But every time we cut a tree, that's one that will never come back in probably our lifetime to the state that it is now. And so I always, like I said, I understand progress, but there's a reason we have codes, and it feels like kind of you were expressing a while ago, I'm kind of confused, and it feels like we're okay in cutting the tree, and then the rest of the project is going to kind of be figured out. Maybe that's not the case, but it feels like that without being totally in-depth in what's going on. But my question is always, because I've been to other cities, and you have too, where they say, this is where we draw the line. And if, as a developer, you have to figure out how to work around that line. I coached high school basketball for 20 years, and the referee never let me go out of bounds. Out of bounds was out of bounds. It was clearly defined, and we all had to live with that. And so I really hope if this project does get voted okay, that at least in the future, we consider the fact that we're losing our big trees ever so slowly, and then you wait 5 years, you wait 10 years, and all of a sudden you're in a totally different place. And I think there's a lot of citizens here that feel the same way I do. If you go on vacation for 2 or 3 weeks, you come back home and there's another swath of trees that are gone. You're like, wow, where did that go? And so I think it's important for all of us to recognize that this one tree represents a bigger picture than just a development. And so while it may happen, I'm not in favor of it, and I always feel like there's a way to make it better. And I hope that we have explored asking developers, present, future, that this has got to stay, you figure it out. And I know that they can. If they have creative architects and they're creative developers, and I've seen it happen where people find a way to make it work. And that's what I hope is our mission now and mission always when it comes to the natural part of Alpharetta. Thank you.
Thanks, sir. Is there anyone else that would like to come forward? Now's your opportunity.
Hello, my name is Taylor Mellish, and I live at 365 Rose Circle. First off, thank you. Thank you, Mike. I would also like to speak for the trees and advocate for them as well. So today I ask Mayor and Council to deny the variance request to allow the removal of the specimen tree along Marietta Street. As a lifelong Alpharetta resident, I believe I speak for many Alpharetta residents when I say that we have lost way too much of our tree canopy over the past 10 years due to development. It's a completely different place than it was when I grew up. There's a lot of great things about it, but unfortunately the tree canopy is, it's something I hear a lot from people that they're quite upset about. So I would just like to emphasize the importance of tree conservation. And trees reduce air pollution, improve air quality. They do provide economic value. They increase property prices by between 5% to 18%. In addition, scientists from the USDA Forest Service have found that for every dollar spent on planting and caring for trees, the benefits that it provides are 2 to 5 times that investment. Trees improve the quality of life. There are measurable healing and wellness effects of trees on our physical and mental health, from lowering stress to improving academic outcomes. Tree-lined streets not only have an aesthetic value, but the tree canopy also provides a cooling effect for pedestrians and cyclists on hot days, especially this one. And trees provide shelter and habitat for local wildlife and contribute to the increasing conservation of local biodiversity. A mature oak tree such as this one can provide a habitat for over 500 different pollinator species. In addition, trees help sequester carbon, they reduce erosion, conserve energy, which reduce air conditioning bills, reduce noise, reduce soil pollutants, manage stormwater. And in reviewing the arborist report from the Bartlett tree experts, which I'm not sure if that's the city or what that one's from, but I was hoping that the mayor and council might consider risk mitigation option 1, which would preserve the tree and result in an estimated residual risk rating of low for trunk or crown failure. And just on a personal note, my 1.5-year-old son and I and my husband, we ride our bikes down Marietta Street several times a week. And my hope is that we can continue to do so for many years to come, and I can continue to hear his little voice say, "Mama, big old tree," which is what he does. And lastly, there are just so many trees being removed on this piece of property already, closer to, I guess, Old Milton. And these trees really add to the peacefulness of this area, whether you're eating at Pure or whether you're walking to Wills Park. That whole space, I guess it's Roswell Street and Meredith Street, it's a lot cooler than the other side because there's a lot of tree canopy, which is, it's very hard to walk around Alpharetta in the summertime without the tree canopy providing shade. Can we please just reconsider allowing this variance to preserve a piece of Alpharetta's natural beauty? Thank you.
Thank you. How much time do we have left? Is there anyone else that wanted to come forward on this item? Did the applicant want to have a rebuttal statement? Seeing none? Pardon? Who? Okay. He didn't look like he wanted to say anything when I looked at him.
I do appreciate the comments, and especially as it relates to people enjoying the trees in Alpharetta and things of that sort. I will refer back to the arborist report and the condition of the tree, the potential lifespan of this tree, and also the potential public safety issues related to this tree. And then on top of that, I'd also like to mention the improvements that we're making along Marietta Street and the public good that the sidewalks and additional overstory trees that we're going to be adding will provide for downtown Alpharetta. Thank you.
Thanks, sir. That being said, we've had public comment. Do I have a motion from council?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, I make a motion that council approve V-26-07 Alpharetta District Places tree variance, subject to the 5 conditions set forth in the staff report.
Second.
Have a motion by Councilman Hypes, a second by Councilman Dorito. Any discussion? We'll start on the right, my right.
The right side?
I don't know about that.
It's always difficult to remove a specimen tree, and one of the reasons why I was asking, I stated even before I asked my questions that I was in favor of this variance, more so for the success of the project, phase 1, and I just wanted to understand legally if we're able to remove a tree on a different piece of property, but it was put on the record that the owner is the same on both, which is good to hear. And the larger caliber trees that are going to be required as part of approving this variance, I think will put some beautiful trees along Roswell Street and Marietta Street. And I'll make this project, after it's complete and built, to be very successful, to continue to have our city center become a thriving economic place of success for the businesses and families to enjoy themselves and all that good stuff. I understand the frustrations of some of our fellow residents out there regarding just specimen trees in general and removing older trees around the city as we see the progress of our city move forward. I think the biggest group of people that has no parameters is Georgia Department of Transportation. What's happening in Georgia 400 is a disgrace as far as I'm concerned. And we can't do much about it. We don't have authority over the state department that manages the road system around the state. I understand progress, but those of you that may have watched have been participant in the meeting when we had GDOT come and give us an update on the Georgia 400 project. I asked about the landscaping plan, the recompense plan along 400, because the city council and prior city council and all our community professionals who work in these areas, we work real hard to maintain the beauty of our city, particularly along the Georgia 400 corridor. And I'm talking about Georgia 400 because in context of what we're considering here with this variance, yeah, we're going to be removing, one large specimen tree that, based on both reports, is moderate health condition right now. But in order to have that whole quadrant successful, both phase 1 and phase 2, and to improve Marietta Street and traffic flow and pedestrian walkway and safety and all that good stuff, that tree's, it's in the way. Unfortunately, it's a tree that, just be fully honest, due to progress of the city, has to be removed to be able to continue the growth and the success of City Center. The project itself, phase 1, is going to be a beautiful addition to City Center and to the city. The only reason why I asked about the specimen tree we're talking about tonight on phase 2, trying to understand how this has anything to do with phase 1. But, I trust our community development department that this is the right answer, and that it meets the requirements of considering a variance to remove that tree for the success of phase 1 and the success of the sidewalk system and the Marietta Street, to make sure that we maintain an environment in City Center that we want to maintain for many years to come. So I hope the City Council supports this variance request this evening.
Any other comment? Councilman?
It's hard not to love trees. We have a lot of really beautiful ones here in Alpharetta. We really do. This area has come up before, and the non-standard nature of Marietta Street has been an issue. And through this project, we are going to be able to address that. Because I don't think without addressing, really making it vehicularly safe as a street, we can add the sidewalks to it. And I think that itself is going to be such an addition. And I'm struggling to see how that could be done and save this particular tree. I am all for really having folks bend over backwards for trees. But I think the priority of having a safe Marietta Street to navigate both by car and by foot is really important on this one.
Councilman Heights?
Thank you, Mayor. For me, it comes down to a little bit about what Councilmember Reeves is talking about in terms of the connection on Marietta Street, coupled with just what's in our packet before us in terms of what the two arborists have had to say. So, first of all, if the arborists were, well, we'll back up to Marietta Street. The city is asking this developer to move sidewalks and the beauty strip off of Marietta Street inward toward their property, and in doing so, it's encroaching on the root zone of a tree that is moderate marginal at best. And these reports that are in our packet, one report talks about the health of the tree, no construction, the health of the tree with construction, and the second report talks about the relative health of the tree if there is construction. There's going to be construction. There's going to be construction, and part of that is because the city is requiring it, because a policy choice is being made about the importance of Marietta Street connecting our residents on the west side to Highway 9 and to the Publix, our downtown grocery store. And I see people traveling the street all the time. My wife and I walked over to Pure just 3 weeks ago, and there was a giant branch laying on the ground underneath this tree. I still well remember the Trip Halstead story about the young person who got hit on the head by a limb and went into a coma. I sit up here to protect the public health, safety, and welfare of our citizens. We're going to put an 8-foot wide sidewalk under a tree that we have a report that says we're going to compromise. I've got a problem, allowing that situation to happen. When the report says, reading from our report, it's in the packet, we determined that within the tree's target zone, people near the tree were an occasional target. In determining the risk ratings, I considered a tree or tree part failure impacting a person to have the highest consequence, severe. Now, if I'm a landowner and the city's issued a report that says that your tree could severely injure or kill somebody, and they have their own report that says a tree could severely injure or kill somebody, and the tree hurts somebody, you know, to me, the owner's damned if they do, damned if they don't. Well, we now know that we're going to require improvements to Marietta Street for the betterment of our city, and we know that this tree poses a risk to the public health, safety, and welfare of our residents. And so for those reasons, not to mention the fact that I applaud that what we're getting in return by way of recompense to beautify the surrounding area of this project for the betterment of our city, you know, I'm fully supportive of this application.
Any other discussion? All those in favor of the motion, please vote yes. And it does pass unanimously. Congratulations. So that'll wrap up that portion of the meeting, but would like to go back and have an opportunity to swear in our new Natural Resources Commissioner. And then we'll step back into the normal agenda. Read it. I'll read it first. You just reply after me. Okay. That way you've got all the words in front of you. So how do you pronounce your name? I wouldn't have been too far off, but I never would have gotten it exactly. So, Nivedita. Thank you. And thank you for your service to our community and willing to serve on the Natural Resources Commission. We're grateful to have residents like yourself involved. So we're going to read the oath of office for the Natural Resources Commission of the City of Alpharetta, Georgia. I, Nivedita Renate, hereby accept the honor of serving as a member of the Natural Resources Commission of the City of Alpharetta, Georgia.
Hereby accept the honor of serving as a member of the Natural Resources Commission of the City of Alpharetta, Georgia.
I do solemnly swear or affirm that
I do solemnly swear or affirm that
I am not the holder of any unaccounted for public money due to this state or any political subdivision or authority thereof.
I am not the holder of any unaccounted for public money due to this state or any political subdivision or authority thereof.
I am qualified to hold said office according to the Constitution and laws of Georgia.
I am qualified to hold said office according to Constitution and laws of Georgia.
And I shall support the Constitution and laws of the state of Georgia and the Constitution and laws of the United States of America.
And I shall support the Constitution and laws of the state of Georgia and the Constitution and laws of the United States of America.
Further, I do solemnly swear or affirm that I shall
Further, I do solemnly swear or affirm that I shall
faithfully perform the duties of a Natural Resources Commission member,
faithfully perform the duties of a Natural Resources Commission member,
regularly attend meetings,
regularly attend meetings,
uphold the ideals of community and service,
uphold the ideals of community and service,
act and conduct business in accordance with the city's Code of Ethics and Conduct,
act and conduct business in accordance with the city's code of ethics and conduct,
and support the charter and laws of the city of Alpharetta.
and support the charter and laws of the city of Alpharetta.
So sworn this 27th day of April, 2026.
So sworn this 27th day of April 2026.
Congratulations. Thank you. Now let me get a pen and make it official. After the last zoning item, I think it's only appropriate that we appoint a new Natural Resources Commissioner. So the next item, excuse me, will be the ordinance for offenses and miscellaneous provisions ordinance text amendments. Ms. Eckline, will you please read the ordinance title aloud and present?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. An ordinance by the mayor and council of the city of Alpharetta, Georgia, to amend Chapter 30 of the Code of the City of Alpharetta, Offenses and Miscellaneous Provisions, to provide for effective dates and for other purposes. And so for just the sake of brevity, the ordinance that you have in your packet and that is on the screen is very largely similar to what was discussed at the work session. So to refresh your recollection, this is essentially to add to our police department's toolkit so that they have ways to assist the community in many cases where perhaps more severe charges might be sought so that we can keep them in the city without having to resort to those measures. The large majority of these are new provisions, but there are a few updates to existing code sections. So before I draw your attention to 30-9, just so that you are aware, the changes to the code from the work session were largely limited to the provisions related to giving false information to and or interfering with city officers. And on both of those provisions, it previously referenced the police department and code enforcement. What I've added in this draft that you have before you is actually that includes fire personnel. So those same things, we're looking at providing that toolkit for all of our enforcement officers. And since the fire marshal frequently is encountering situations where there could be violations, I wanted to make sure that we included them in those provisions. What is not updated in the packet, since it was ongoing discussions following the work session, is in 30-9. This is the discharge of bows and crossbows, and you have an updated version on the screen in front of you. So the first draft that we had put together included a permitting requirement, and what is updated in the draft that is on the screen and that will be discussed for the next reading of the ordinance is this section, which omits that permitting requirement. So this focuses on the safety that we discussed at the work session and the concerns for making sure that we have safeguards in place to ensure that bows and crossbows are discharged safely and with neighboring properties and perhaps trails and the greenway in mind, while also respecting the right to bear arms. And so all of the safeguards, the requiring that a projectile not leave the property, requiring permission to discharge a bow on somebody else's property, ensuring that you're within, that you're not within 150 feet of a residential dwelling. All of those requirements remain in the ordinance, but it's simply not part of a permitting requirement. So we just have that, those safety measures in place, the regulatory framework without the permit oversight. And so other than that, I'll be happy to answer any questions.
Any questions? Councilman Dorito?
I understand the changes and heard about it before this evening's meeting, but I guess, what's the enforcement mechanism?
For
What-
the bow and crossbow?
Yeah.
Is that what you're asking?
I'm in agreement with the changes, by the way. I'm just
Of
trying to
course.
understand.
So-
How do our police enforce if someone is shooting bows onto someone's other property and not staying within the parameters of what the ordinance requires?
Of course. I think like most code violations, it would be complaint-based. And I think that would have been the case before and after that revision to the code. And so, for instance, if you're walking along the greenway and you saw an arrow come right in front of you, God forbid that happened, I have no doubt that we would hear about it at the city, and so we would be investigating and looking into that in the same way that we would any other code violation. Similarly, if it were to, projectile, or if a piece of a target were to enter into your property and stemming from one of your neighbors, it would also be complaint-based. And so I think that would largely be how that would be enforced. If we don't know about it, certainly we can enforce it, as is the case with most anything.
Thank you.
Councilman Brady?
Just curious if some kids went out in the street, set up their little bow and arrow and put a little target up, they're outside their property, can they get hauled away to jail?
It would certainly be a violation of the ordinance to do that. And I think we would be having to discuss what measures we would take on that sort of situation. But no, I'm not going to commit to anything, but it would not be authorized under the ordinance.
Hopefully the chief will be easy on them. Thank you.
Any other questions?
No, just for the record, our section 1-8 authorizes fines and jail time, either or. I think it's more the exception than the rule that people go to jail for our ordinance violations.
So I've got a question for the chief of police. Quite frankly, I don't support the change. So as I recall, as we were drawing up this ordinance to begin with, the reason there was a permitting is because if people are breaking the law and hunting illegally, we had no way to find them or to track them down. And that, going back to the question, you laugh about how you're going to track down some little kid or something like that. We know these people are already hunting, and often on other people's land they don't own. And I really don't see how we can enforce an ordinance without some way to know who these people are, because they're in the woods. If they're shooting things, especially if they were to accidentally kill someone, God forbid, we would have no way in hell of ever finding out who that person was.
What was your question, though?
My question is, do you see this as something that's enforceable without having a permitting process?
I think, like Molly said, almost everything we deal with in terms of bows in general has always been complaint-based. Like, we don't typically, I can't even think of an instance where we've been out and seen somebody shooting a bow. It's typically like a neighbor calling in on another neighbor, or someone walking down the greenway saying, hey, somebody's shooting arrows in their backyard. Is this safe? Is this allowed? The hunting, I think what the ordinance would do is, especially when like DNR, because we have DNR that visits regularly and they go through some of those areas, it's just another tool for them as well to be able to have something, because they certainly can charge people under our ordinances as well. And I think that gives them the ability at the state level to then remove or revoke hunting licenses and do things like that, because they have an offense that they now have documented.
Okay, so you have no problem with this permit?
I do not, sir. I do not.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, sir.
Councilman Dorito?
Why the change?
Well, I think for one, I think it's just ease of actually executing it. Like there's just the bureaucracy or the whole process of trying to get people to do permits. And then there's also questions, I think Molly could address these as well, of what you can do on your private property. Like getting a permit to shoot on your private property, we can't regulate that, at least not to my understanding. And so all we can do is we can put restrictions on the parameters by which you use your property, but we can't really restrict whether or not you could actually use that on your property. I think the permitting process became difficult to figure out how to do and to implement and execute.
And I can certainly understand that on your own property. My concern is that most of these people that are hunting along the Greenway are not hunting on their own property.
But then the ordinance ultimately, it addresses the fact that they are outside of what would be allowed, and so that we can address it at that point, because they would, by definition, be outside of their private property, which we are regulating that behavior through the ordinance.
Okay. As long as you're comfortable with it, I
Yes, sir.
won't object. Any other questions? Do we have any public comment cards?
No, sir, we do not.
However, if anyone wants to come forward and speak on this item, now's your chance. For a second there, I thought you were going to come forward. So we'll close public comment since I see no one coming forward. Do I have a motion from council?
I make a motion that we approve.
This would just be the first reading, just approve the
Oh,
first
for
reading.
the first reading?
Yes.
Motion to approve the ordinance for first reading.
Second.
I have a motion by Councilwoman Reeves, second by Councilman Dorito. Any discussion? All those in favor of the motion to approve, please vote yes. And it passes unanimously. So, next item. Looks like we're going to have to hear from Director Harris next. New business item is 2026-27, citywide employee health and related benefits. You have the floor, sir.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Yes, before you is consideration award certain employee health and related benefits for plan year 2026, 2027, which begins July 1 with the new budget year. Being that HR was up before you earlier today, or this evening, to discuss the proclamation for public service appreciation, servants appreciation, I would be sort of remiss if I didn't start off by saying, you know, the employees of the city are very fortunate to have a very robust and very good employee health benefit plan that you as council have previously brought forward and others before you, and we've been able to carry on a very competitive health plan as it relates to other cities around us and everything. So I just wanted to make that point that it is a very solid and a great benefit for the servants here at the city. So with that, historically, the last 5 years, we've been able to get rates on average year over year, we're about a 4% increase on our medical spend. That includes 2 years where we had 0% increases in the past 5-year window, including this when I throw in next year's number, which is 8.5%. So you take the 8.5, 2 years of zeros, something like 4%, we're averaging 4%. So we've done very well when you look at the national average on medical spend. Trend year over year, unfortunately, is about 7%. So in that regard, very good. But I think I mentioned this at the retreat and mentioned it last year that, you know, our claims were starting to get very up there as it relates to what we are paying in premiums. So if we're paying $100 in premiums, we run about $110 of expenses. If you look at just the medical premium, because we get our premiums broken into just sort of admin and a medical component, the medical component is, let's say it's $100, we're running at $127. So our medical claims are, so Cigna's eating that. And so it'd be very, with the trend being 7%, this year I knew was going to be a year we could easily have seen a 20% increase. We did, after negotiations with them and competing them with others and looking at various options, we do make 2 plan changes herein that I think are just reasonable plan changes that save us $200,000. We have a increase of 8.5% on the medical side. Dental has a 2% increase. That's the first time in several years I think we've had any dental increase. And for iMed and Vision Care, that is a 0% increase. For New York Life, which is our basic life policy that we provide for all our employees, along with dismemberment and along with the long-term and short-term policies, disability coverage, that is also at a 0% increase. And our employee health wellness firm that comes in and makes sure that we're doing some things with our employees, make sure they try to stay healthy, that is a 0% increase. So all in, it's about a 7% increase. But again, the trend, for our trend, we're well over 4 when you look at the total package for the last 5-year window. So that is what I have before you for the approval of these specific items.
Councilman DeRito?
Thank you, Tom, for presenting this. Couple of quick questions. So it's going to increase the city's cost by, let me see, 800,000, another 9.9 thousand for the dental.
Yep, about 800 all in.
And then you're looking to offset those increases by eliminating one of the HRA health reimbursement plan.
That's already netted in the number, already.
It's
in the plan proposal.
So it's 800,000 in addition to those netted savings?
Correct.
Okay, so then I won't ask further about the
It
next
would,
one.
the number would have,
Do they get it, they get 10 increase?
we're going to pass on, since we pick up about,
And we'll
honestly,
pick up 10?
we pick up 10, maybe a little less, pass on. We'll both see an 8% increase, so it'll be under, I want to say for family coverage, it'll be a $100 increase for the year.
Per year?
Yes.
So the 800,000 plus the 9.9 is some other costs too, associated with some other parts of the plan down here. The aging health group.
Yeah, it all
wellness
depends
services,
which
some
plan
of
they're
that.
in. If they're in the
Okay,
dental,
so
they'll see a
those
7.
are all net
they'll-
of all of these allocations, and that's going to be our cost that has to go into the
Correct.
budget for next year. Okay, thank you.
Councilman Heights?
Director Harris, I brought this up before the meeting. Can we just amend on the record here that this is coming out of the fiscal year operating budget?
Correct,
And just
yes.
amend the staff report so that when we approve the minutes next meeting that.
It was an oversight on my.
And not trying to call anybody out on oversight, but it's a $12 million vote we're going to make here. And I'd
Yep.
like to know that it's not coming out of unallocated.
And next year, it will be projected in budget, which we haven't approved yet, but these rates and these numbers will be in next year's budget, the incremental as well as the corpus.
Councilwoman Reeves?
You read a lot about healthcare costs. I mean, you read about it all the time. And thank you for your hard work. I mean, must be a very good negotiator. So I appreciate it.
Any other questions? Councilman Brady?
Tom, I just wanted to thank you so much for going through this, because I remember sitting down with you, it's a 17% increase. To give you guys an idea, it was a 17% increase that we got for the year. And Tom and Chris really worked through that and surgically kind of removed some things to really kind of off-balance that. We had a lot of kind of conversations about this because it is a substantial amount. 10% of our expenses is $12 million. And when you really kind of look at the employees, number one, kind of from, as we look at this, our ability to be able to acquire the right talent and the right recruitment is critical to the city. It's critical to have the best people working at the city. But then you kind of go back in the years where we're chasing inflation, there was competition coming, comp plans kind of going up. This is that expansion. This is that breadth that kind of comes into this. I mean, really kind of sensitive kind of what I'm saying, but I also think we can sharpen our pencil a little bit more that was in there. I know we've talked about some things that are in there that I know next year we'll be working through those to get maybe another 3 or 4% kind of back, because I think we need to make some tough decisions. We need to have the right people doing the right things, but we also have to kind of counter some of these costs a little bit by being creative and kind of going after certain things and really working into the pharmacy, the cost of some of these, where you get these, drugs or the pharmaceuticals that are needed in the prescriptions. There's things we can tackle. We really got to sharpen that pen and pencil. But I know we're talking more. I just want to say congratulations. You did a great job kind of getting off 17.
Thanks.
But I know we got a little work to do.
Yeah, we look at a lot of that every year, including those issues of pulling out the pharmacy and breaking the whole thing up. And right now, we're about right on the cusp where there probably would be savings on one side and some takeaways on the other way. But I think this is the best we could do with this kind of hybrid plan that we have with Cigna for right now. But we'll be exploring, again, more and more next year. So, thanks.
Any other questions? Thanks, sir. Ms. Orhuske, do we have any public comment cards?
No, we do not.
However, if you'd like to come forward and speak, now's your chance. Seeing no one come forward, we'll close public comment. Do I have a motion from council?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, I'd like to make a motion to approve the 2026-2027 citywide employment health and related benefits to award the contracts for certain employee health and related benefits for plan year 26-27. The city's group medical and dental coverage to Cigna, vision coverage to IMED, life and disability coverage to New York Life, and wellness services to Engagement Health Group, and to authorize the mayor to execute all necessary documents.
I have a motion by Councilman Brady, a second by Councilman Dorito. Any discussion? Thank you for your efforts on our employees' behalf. All those in favor of the motion, please vote yes. It does pass unanimously, so we'll move on to the GDOT Local Road Assistance Administration Grant Application. Director Savage?
Mayor, I'm going to have to take this one tonight.
It didn't look like.
I don't look like Pete, but I can tell you Pete was in jury duty today, and Pete just let me know he was selected for a jury. So I said, well, maybe
He'll do
Kathy
anything to get out of here.
Kathy's still sticking around, and Tom's still sticking around because they'll probably perk up when they hear that. But Tom's still not paying any attention. That's okay. We'll keep going. That's okay. Maybe John will fill him in here in a minute. But I have this agenda item, and what's on the agenda is the GDOT Local Road Assistance Administration Grant Application. We throw around acronyms in government like I don't know what. We throw them around all the time. And this one, we're fairly used to the phrase LMEG, which is the Local Maintenance and Improvement Grant. That's one that we compete for every year, and we put in our list of projects for LMEG, and we have to have some sort of a match for it. This is the grant that follows up LMEG. It follows the same LMEG process, but it's when there might be some extra funds available in that LMEG process, we can apply for a local road administration grant. Very few times can you apply for grants from the state where you can get money with few strings attached. This is one of those. It's distributed based upon a population basis, based upon what we would be entitled to. In this particular case, we are entitled to $838,403.13. We submitted an application for $5 million in resurfacing projects. The first of those is Cogburn Road from the city limits to Highway 9 up there near North Park. The second is Johnny Heron Way from Cogburn Road to Bethany Bend. If you wonder where that is the roadway that is contained within North Park. Seal Drive, that's at Rock Mill Road, and Kimmel Bridge Road at the top of the hill. If you go up Rock Mill and turn to the left, I believe it is, you'll go into the neighborhood that's Seal Drive up there, Maid Marian Close out on Webb Bridge Road, out towards the middle school, and North Trace on Canton Street to Hopewell, just right up there off of near Vaughn Drive, whatever, in that area. So we put in requests for projects at $1,337,000. That needed to exceed what we were allocated. The allocation is $838,403.13. That's what we will receive. The balance for those 5 projects will be coming out of our ILMEG funds that are already budgeted. So this is all good news. So Pete landed one in my lap that's all good news. I said if you had to land one to me that I had to learn at the last minute, it's all it's positive. It's all revenue in for mill and resurfacing projects in the city. So happy to answer any questions.
Any questions? Councilwoman Reeves? Oh, okay. Seeing none?
We have no public comment cards.
I see no public comment coming forward, so we'll close public comment. Do I have a motion from council?
Yes, I'd like to make a motion that we adopt a resolution to authorize the submission of fiscal year 2026 local road assistance grant application to GDOT and authorization for the mayor to execute the submittal cover letter and all necessary documents.
Second.
Have a motion by Councilwoman Reeves, second by Councilman Brady. Any discussion? It's always nice to have money from the state. Take care of our roads. All those in favor, please vote yes. It does pass unanimously, so we'll move on. Chief, this is the request for the proposal 26-112 firefighter turnout gear.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. I am here to request your consideration and hopefully your approval for RFP with MES Services, who provides our turnout gear for us. The contract would be good for 1 year and a total of $100,000. How we got to that number is this year's cost of a full set of turnout gear is about $5,000. So we need 20 sets, about half of which would be for the replacement of existing members whose gear is no longer suitable for frontline use, and the other half would go for new recruits. We did put this out to bid. We had 2 companies bid on it, and MES was selected. They were not only rated higher, but they also came in cheaper. So that worked out very well. I'm happy to answer any questions.
Councilman Brady?
Is this part of your operating budget for the year?
Yes, sir, it is.
Are you within budget?
I'm going to be at the end of the year, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Any other questions for Chief Deckenshire? You must have done a good job. No other questions.
Thank you all.
Do we have any public comment cards on this item?
No, sir, we do not.
And seeing no public come forward, we'll close public comment. Do I have a motion from council?
Yes, yes, Mayor, make a motion, council approve RFP 26-112, award to MES Services Company for a 1-year contract for firefighter turnout gear, authorize the mayor to execute all necessary documents. It's for an amount not to exceed $100,000.
I believe that was Councilman Hypes with the motion and a second by Councilman Driscoll. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please vote yes. Councilman Driscoll? And it's unanimous. So we'll move on to the next item, which is the request for proposal 26-113, design build, Wills Park Field artificial turf conversion. Director Rogers, have some fun.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Good evening, council. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Good evening, council. I am here tonight asking for approval for a contract with Sprint Turf for the design build conversion of Wills Park Field number 5 to an artificial turf field in the amount of $546,286 and accept the funding from the Alpharetta Youth Baseball Association in the amount of $282,143, which is half of the cost of the project. Field 5 in Wills Park is the first field canceled during a rain event and the last field that we get ready. And that's in our whole system, not just Wills Park. It's just, it really has had a bad drainage problem for several years. We were approached by the Alpharetta Youth Baseball Association about transitioning this from a natural field to an artificial turf, and they were willing to pay half of that amount, and that brings us here tonight. We did a RFP in January of this year. We had lots of folks on the bonfire and through the Georgia Procurement Register downloaded, but we had only 2 firms that actually gave us a proposal. Those 2 firms were evaluated with 25% for project team and resources, 25% on technical proposals, and 50% on cost. Sprint Turf scored the highest in all of those, and particularly the cost. They were by far the lowest of those. So we were asking for approval for those two agreements tonight. Be glad to answer any questions you may have.
Do we have any questions? Councilman Driscoll?
Good to see you this evening. Is it just the outfield or is it also the infield?
It's the full field. It's
Full
from
field,
fence
so
to
it'll
fence.
be,
Everything on the inside of the fence.
that's what I thought, thank you.
Any other questions? Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Ms. Rusty?
We have no comment cards.
And I see no one in public coming forward, so I'll close public comment. Do I have a motion from council?
Yes, Mayor, I move that council award a contract for RFP 26-113 to Sprint Turf LLC for the design-build conversion of Wills Park Baseball Field 5 to an artificial turf field in an amount not to exceed $546,286, and to also for the city to enter into an agreement with the Alpharetta, Youth Baseball Association to reimburse the city 50% of that amount, or $282,143, and authorize the mayor to execute all necessary documents.
Second.
I have a motion by Councilman Hypes, a second by Councilman Brady. Any discussion? All those in favor, please vote yes. And it does pass unanimously. So, Mr. Lagerbloom, I believe you have the next item, which is the agreement, Icon Venue Group, LLC, DBA, CAA, Icon, Second Amendment Services.
I do, Mr. Mayor. I have this item tonight. This is a continuation of a contract, and that's why it's brought forward as a Second Amendment. Continuation of a contract that we have with CAA Icon. CAA Icon has done sports consulting work for us. They have come to a completion on the feasibility study as well as the summary document that they completed. Those documents have been delivered to the city. You all have received links to be able to view them. They also are being retained by our special counsel on that particular project. That really concludes the engagement that we've had with CAA Icon for the first scope of work that was funded jointly by the Development Authority as well as the Convention and Visitors Bureau. We are recommending, and what's before you tonight is to now bring forward some sort of a general advisory, general assistance type contract, so that as we've formed a relationship with an expert, that as we work our way through the rezoning process that is being worked through now, as well as in any subsequent process that results as a result of that rezoning process, that we keep our expert as an expert in our corner. We can do that in the form of a continuing retainer type agreement. That's what's in front of you tonight, with general advisory type services. It's difficult to write into a list of bullets exactly what you need when we're working through this process that's kind of going on and is evolving, even as we know that we may need these types of services in the sideline and in the background. So these services at $25,000 a month for 4 months, meaning a cost not to exceed $100,000. If this is still a project and still something that we're moving forward with after that 4-month period, I'll be back in front of you with some sort of a every 90-day consulting agreement if we feel it's necessary to continue to have an expert, something that has that expert at our fingertips but also has a quick exit strategy if we were to need it. Let's just say, for example, we have this application for rezoning today and the project all of a sudden fades away. We don't want to be hemmed into a consulting contract that we have to pay for a year or 2 years or 3 years. We want to make sure that that consulting contract is something that we can get out of in a very short order if we need to. So what's in front of you tonight is for 4 months at a cost not to exceed $25,000 per month. Again, for a total out-of-pocket not to exceed $100,000. The finance director has identified the economic development toolbox as a funding source for that. If you have any questions on that, I will ask him to address that. And that is what is in front of you tonight. Happy to answer questions or ask our staff to answer.
Councilman Hypes.
I apologize for not going through the details of the agreement. The $25,000 per month is fees and expenses, or is it fees and expenses dealt with separately if any expenses are incurred?
Fees, expenses dealt with independently if expenses are incurred.
Expenses would be in addition to this?
If incurred, correct.
we have any idea what, I mean, is that going to be a petty cash, so to speak, or is it going to be a bigger number? or-
To the extent that we've used them already for a scope well beyond what is proposed to you tonight, there has not been reimbursables that have been beyond the petty cash amount.
Any other question? Councilwoman Reese?
And will it just naturally flow into the 27 budget and be captured into that?
Yes.
Any other questions? Councilman Dorito?
Let me understand the purpose of this for what the city's going through right now. I'm looking at the North Point Mall area redevelopment. I guess two questions. Who is involved, or will the city council be involved with informing CAA Icon in this next phase? Because it's looking at, you know, a lot of different things, deal structures with the NHL deal, revenue sharing. The one that particularly strikes me is the, where is it? Public funding sources. I guess, and I'll just generally cover it as general city needs to help seed fund this project, I guess, is a good way of putting it. I'm sitting here gonna approve this amendment, which has to be done, I think. But I'm trying to understand where are we involved in these discussions? Because up to this point, I'm absolutely outside of everything. I'm speaking for myself. I'm voting on $100,000, but I'm not involved with any discussions or what's going on or what's going to drive their consulting advice to us, and the different fee structures and everything that they're going to be looking at for this thing to work. And at what point are we intimately involved with those discussions and negotiations, and who's negotiating? And I don't know the answers to any of those questions, so.
Well, I'll try my best to explain what I know. We're not negotiating with anybody right now. I think what we're trying to do is, as this process evolves, we know we're in a competitive market. We're not the only city in this country or even in the world that's trying to get a hockey team. And we've never done that before.
Right.
And so, as I understand it, we want to have, it's like retaining an attorney or an architect if you know you want to build a house, but you don't know how to build a house. We want to make sure that we have the best input from professionals who have done this before. And as I understand it, we'll pay for those resources like we would if we had to go to an attorney and ask them a question. And I assure you, I don't know any more details about this than any of you, because we don't know the details yet. We don't know the questions. We haven't even gotten through the application of the DRI. So we're still early in this process. But as those questions arise, we don't want to be scrambling, trying to find somebody we can rely on when those questions are going to be asked. And I assure you, all of you will be part of this once we have a part to have.
That's fair. I'm just asking because right now I personally feel completely disengaged in what's going on, and we're approving consulting contracts. Like you said, it's like an attorney, I get it, but I also want to understand what that consultant's going to be doing for $100,000 and how we get involved with that dialogue. That's all I'm asking.
You have my assurance, everyone at this dais, when we have to spend any of that money, we will all be abreast of why and how much, and all of that will have input from all of you. This isn't something being driven by me or Chris or anybody else. It's just we don't have the information, and we want to make sure that we have the best information when the time comes to need it.
Yeah, Mayor, I'm not suggesting that.
I know.
that's happening.
I just want to assure everybody. I mean, I get it. Look, nobody's been more in the dark over the last 4 years than me. I mean, honestly, I get it. But this process, we're only a small part. We're the host city. You know? Councilwoman Reeves?
I share Councilman Dorito's sense of frustration with it because I know some of the things we're obviously going to discuss. I mean, we talked about various issues we had council people bring up at the retreat in January. Like, what kind of issues are we going to bring up? There are so many issues, and I guess what I was hoping for, and I don't know may still be in our plans, is that as much as the city might say, gosh, we would really love to host the next hockey team and all of that, I think our guardrails that we have from the community and from us as council members. There's 7 of us that have 7 different circles of influence and talk to different people, and I don't know how that looks going forward, and I don't know what I need to do myself to make that, to maybe, empower myself, but I will just say, and I have every intention of supporting this. It makes all the sense in the world that we want help along the way. I completely agree with that, but I share that frustration.
Councilman Dorito?
I wouldn't call it frustration from my perspective, but that's your term. And I guess you made me think of what I should have articulated better was, I think we, as the elected governing body, and the mayor, I trust you, we will be informed and get involved with all that. I get that. And the reason why that's important is we have to be in a position to represent whatever we decide to move forward on here in a way to educate our constituents, on our people and the taxpayers on this as a team, because I think we all want to see this happen, but it's hard to be a cheerleader if you kind of feel like you're kind of out of the know, if that makes sense. That's all.
Mr. Lagerberg?
Yeah, thank you. And certainly our intent is never to have you feel out of the know. What I would like to say, though, tonight, especially with a consulting contract like this, is because we now have this application in the Community Development Department that is working its way through a very, very legal process. I do not want you all to feel out of the loop, but I do want you all to feel as though you are enough out of the loop that you have the ability to weigh independent facts that come your way as you're weighing the rezoning of the land that's at North Point, because that's what's in front of you today, is whether or not the rezoning makes sense. It hasn't made it to you yet, because it's just made it in the door as an application. Once you all make a decision on that, in your position as a quasi-judicial trier of fact in a zoning matter, once you've made that decision and you've either decided the land use makes sense or not, that is the point in time when I would see you a lot more involved in the details of what does arena look like, what does hockey look like, what does any of that look like, because then you've used your powers of rezoning to say that that can actually happen. So I don't want you at any point to feel as though you're out of the loop, but right now you're in that place of acting as the trier of fact. So I kind of need you to be, hoping you want to be at this point, really kind of trier of fact-based, neutral-based. And then once you've made that decision on land use, then we can jump way into the weeds on anything you want to jump in on as it relates to the project specifically.
Any other questions? Sure. Councilman Driscoll.
So there's two things. When we say a retainer, is it use it or lose it, or are they looking for a retainer and it's billable hours back out of it? Because I've heard two different things. I just want to make sure we're all on the same page with it there.
Yeah, for this first transition, it's a cost of $25,000 per month for a 4-month minimum. So in the phrase you used, yes, we would use that or we would lose that. So it is our intent to use that. In any of the ways that we were able to create kind of a bulleted list that was generic enough, it could kind of be backed into for really any topic.
Any other questions from council? All right. Do I have a motion?
Public comment.
Do we have any public comment, Chris?
No, sir, we do not.
Do we have anyone that wants to come forward and speak in the public? I don't see anyone coming forward, so we'll close public comment. Do I have a motion?
Yes, Mayor, I make a motion that council approve the Second Amendment Services Agreement with Icon Venue Group LLC in an amount of $25,000 per month for 4 months, not to exceed $100,000.
Second.
Have a motion by Councilman Hutz, a second by Councilman Dorito. Any discussion? All those in favor, please vote yes. And it passes unanimously. So the next item is the resolution for the participation in amicus brief in Chang versus City of Milton. Ms. Eswine?
A resolution by the mayor and council of the city of Alpharetta, Georgia, authorizing participation in an amicus brief in Chang v. City of Milton on remand before the Georgia Court of Appeals or, if warranted, the Georgia Supreme Court. So, back in March, the Georgia Supreme Court ruled on what was before it in the case I just mentioned, Chang versus the City of Milton. That's the one where the city was held responsible for not maintaining a portion of the right-of-way that was not in the ordinary lanes of travel. And in the courts below, the plaintiff was awarded a very substantial award based on the location of a planner that was not in the ordinary lanes of travel. The Georgia Supreme Court has held that the city's ministerial duty to maintain the lanes of travel does not extend to the areas outside the ordinary lanes of travel, which is what was hoped for before the Georgia Supreme Court. However, while that issue is resolved, the court remanded back to the Court of Appeals to resolve certain other issues, one of those being whether the city has any liability for maintaining a nuisance and whether the plaintiff is entitled to any compensation on that basis. And this stems from waiver of sovereign immunity. And in fact, cities and counties under Georgia case law have different application of the waiver of sovereign immunity and liability in nuisance cases that are based on personal injury rather than takings. And so that is what this brief would be arguing to the Court of Appeals, to try and put counties and cities on even footing and to remove liabilities for cities based on some questionable case law that stems back decades. And so that's what the City of Milton has requested, is sending out requests to municipalities all across the state asking for those municipalities to sign on to those amicus briefs just to make a good case for municipalities for the Court of Appeals.
Do we have any questions regarding this item?
Okay.
Thank you,
And
Ms. Eswine.
So the resolution would just authorize for our office via Ken Gerard to file that amicus brief with the Court of Appeals. And of course, as your city attorney, I would review it before the city's name is put on it, but I trust you it will be well prepared.
Councilman Hypes.
Is this in essence a Me Too brief, like a one-page, yeah, we agree with what everybody else said?
So I don't
Or are
think
we going
it's-
to do some free thinking of our own?
So the amicus brief, just as it was with the Supreme Court, I don't think Ken Gerard's capable of writing a one-page brief. I tease, but it is a Me Too brief, but what the city would be signing on to is actually a more robust thing, more robust brief, but the city of Milton is incurring the full cost for it. So the city of Alpharetta is not going to be billed, just as it was not billed for the amicus brief for the Supreme Court briefing. So it will be a more robust brief than a one-page, but the city won't incur any cost.
Any other questions? Thank you, ma'am. Any public comment cards?
We have no public comment cards.
However, there's any public here that would like to come forward, now's your chance. Seeing none, we'll close public comment. Do I have a motion from council?
Mayor, I make a motion that the council adopt a resolution authorizing City of Alpharetta to participate in an amicus brief in the Chang v. City of Milton appeal pending in the Court of Appeals and warranted the Georgia Supreme Court, and authorize the mayor to execute all necessary documents.
Second.
Have a motion by Councilman Heights, second by Councilman Brady. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please vote yes. And it does pass unanimously, so we'll move on to public comment. With a comment from the public coming forward. I see none. We'll close public comment. Any reports this evening? Councilwoman Reeves?
Our city police had an open house on Saturday, and it was awesome. There was a lot of our community was there. Our cadets were there helping out. It was all around. It was a great day, and it's just a wonderful thing that y'all do, and I appreciate it.
Councilman Heights?
Thank you, Mayor. One of Alpharetta's 3 biggest days is coming up. The other 2 big days being the tree lighting and wire and wood, but the one I'm talking about is Taste of Alpharetta. I think it's May 14th. Is that right, Director Wright? May 14th. Great food, great festivities on the streets of downtown Alpharetta. Please tell your neighbors to turn out and have fun.
There's no other reports. Do we have a motion to? Councilwoman Reeves?
Just a reminder, tomorrow night across the hall, I'm going to have a community meeting to discuss T-Splost. So looking forward to listening to all of our stakeholders come in, and I'll just be reviewing the project list as it's been given to council so far. So I'm looking forward to it, and I hope a lot of people show up. Thanks.
Do we have a motion to adjourn? Motion by, who was that? Councilman Driscoll, second by Councilman Brady. Any discussion? All those in favor of adjourning, vote yes. Councilman Driscoll?